I know this is difficult to accept, but he isn't coming back this time.
We have to face the reality of the situation.
We were in one of those quiet restaurants, the kind with dim lights and soft music that's supposed to hide uncomfortable truths. Her hand rested on her stomach, a small, instinctive gesture she didn't even realize had already answered her own question. "Why are you smiling?" she asked again, forcing a laugh. This conversation feels so serious. I just looked at her for a long moment. Not with anger, not with sadness, just with clarity. "Because you're pregnant," I said, my voice completely even. Her shoulders relaxed for just a split second, relief flashing across her face until I finished the sentence. "And I'm not the father." The spoon slipped from her fingers and clinked against the plate. It was loud enough that a couple at the next table glanced over before turning back to their own lives. Ours had already collapsed. I didn't raise my voice. I didn't make a scene. I simply stood up, placed enough cash on the table to cover the bill, and wished her a good night. By the time she finally found her words, I was already walking out the door. That was the last time we ever spoke as husband and wife. You see, I had known for weeks. I just hadn't reacted the way people expect. I'm not really built for big, loud explosions. I'm built for observation, for noticing patterns, for quiet confirmation. While she thought I was just distracted by work and our daily routine, I was noticing all the little changes. New appointments she forgot to explain, absences disguised as errands, a sudden need for privacy that she'd never had before. When I finally confirmed the truth, something surprising happened. I didn't feel rage, I felt relief. Because uncertainty is absolutely exhausting. But certainty, no matter how painful it is, sets you free. I didn't go home that night. I checked into a modest hotel nearby and I slept better than I had in months. In the morning, I started the process of separating my life from hers, carefully and cleanly. This wasn't to punish her. It was to protect myself and, more importantly, my children. To be honest, the house had been quiet for years anyway. We were already living parallel lives, just pretending that being in the same space meant we were still connected. Her betrayal didn't end our marriage. It just revealed that it had already been over for a long, long time. When the truth eventually came out publicly, the story didn't exactly favor her. The facts have a funny way of dissolving performances. The timeline of the pregnancy just didn't line up. The evidence didn't bend to fit her story, and I didn't interfere. I simply stepped aside and let the truth stand on its own. The answer was simple. I had already mourned our relationship long before it officially ended. The hardest part was explaining everything to the kids. I sat them down and told them the truth as gently as I could, without any poison, without assassinating her character. I told them that sometimes adults make choices that break trust, and when that trust is broken, distance becomes necessary. They cried. I held them. And I promised them something I fully intended to keep, that our lives, from that moment on, would be stable, honest, and safe from lies. Mornings became simpler. Evenings became calmer. Laughter started to return, slowly and cautiously at first, like it wasn't sure if it was welcome anymore. But it came back. She tried to reach out after the divorce, apologies, regret. Messages, filled with all the words she should have said long before the consequences arrived. I read them once. Then I stopped. You know, closure doesn't always require a conversation. Sometimes silence is the most respectful boundary you can set. Months passed, then a year. I started to rediscover parts of myself that I had sacrificed just to keep a broken marriage afloat. I wasn't just surviving anymore. I was steady. I was grounded. Then one afternoon I ran into her unexpectedly. Of all places, in a grocery store aisle, she looked smaller. Not physically, but emotionally. Like someone who had lost their footing and never quite found it again. She looked at me with this mixture of shame and disbelief, as if she couldn't understand how I was just standing there, completely intact. "You look different," she said. "I am," I replied. She hesitated for a moment, then asked the question she had clearly been rehearsing in her head. "How did you move on so fast?" I thought about lying just to be polite. Then I decided against it. "I didn't move on fast," I said. I just started earlier than you realized. She nodded slowly, the truth finally sinking in. There was nothing else to say. We parted like strangers who just happened to share a past that neither of us wanted to revisit. That night I thought about how close I had come to losing myself trying to save something that never intended to be saved. The betrayal didn't destroy me. It clarified me. The happiness I felt that night at dinner wasn't cruelty, it was freedom. I wasn't happy because she was pregnant. I was happy because I finally understood that the life I'd been holding together all by myself no longer required my effort. I was finally free to build something real, something honest, without deception always lurking in the background. The future didn't feel frightening anymore, it felt open. And that calm smile she noticed at the restaurant, it wasn't arrogance or revenge. It was peace. Thanks for listening to my story. If you've ever been through something similar, remember that finding your own peace is the ultimate goal. Don't forget to like and subscribe for more stories about navigating life's toughest moments. See you next time.